Afternoon, everyone. Okay, now I'm coming from a completely different angle than Jason here. When I was about a sophomore in high school, I had my first serious relationship. And after a while of dating, we thought we were in love and everything was great. And slowly, we started to get very physical. And slowly, the pressure started to set into the relationship. And it came to a point where he said, well, girl, if you really love me, if you truly love me, you'd prove it to me. You'd show me just how much you love me. So I needed advice. So I went to my girlfriends and I said, well, he kind of wants to do this with me and he wants to do that. And they said, well, if you aren't doing this with him, if you aren't doing that with him, well, what's wrong with you? Everybody's doing it. You love him, right? And I thought, well, yeah, I love him. So at the age of 15, I lost my virginity thinking it was going to cause this huge, great emotional bond between us and we'd be on cloud nine and so in love. And in all actuality, eventually any love we had in that relationship was just thrown out the window. Because if I couldn't respect my own body, how's he supposed to respect it? And after a while of dating, it seemed like he didn't want to spend time with me anymore. He was basically spending the time with my body. And when a person is being used, they know it. They know it in the depths of their heart. They may deny it, they may ignore it, and I know it. And after a while, we were constantly fighting. He was cheating on me, and we went our separate ways. Now, I will never forget the day when he walked away from me for the very last time. And as he walked away from me, all I could think about was that guy's taking something with him that never belonged to him in the first place. But I can't get it back, right? What's the point? It's already gone. So there I was in the cafeteria talking with my girlfriends. And I came to this conclusion, okay, well, if a guy can date me for about 6 months without sleeping with me, then he must love me. Then I'll sleep with him. And I think now 6 months is the price that I put on my body. If he gives me just a little bit of that time and a little bit of that attention, that's the definition of love. And I carried this mentality all through high school. He was the first guy, but he wasn't the last. And I went down this vicious cycle. And I'm not standing up here pointing my finger at you guys, saying, you guys, you're the problem. It's all your fault. No. I happen to believe you guys will be as much of a gentleman as we ladies require. Now, I wasn't acting like a lady back then, nor dressing like a lady back then. Therefore, they didn't feel the need to rise up and act like a gentleman around me. And what seems to happen sometimes is that girls will give guys sex for the sake of getting the love from them. And guys will give girls the love for the sake of getting the sex from the girls. And it can go both ways. Now, with this lifestyle, I got into the partying, I got into the drinking, I got into the clubbing. You name it, I was into it. And granted, at the time, yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very attractive. And I know what that's like. But I also know what it's like to wake up the next day when that party's over, when your friends are gone, and when you're there by yourself. And I remember waking up thinking, I can't believe I did that last night. I hope I don't have to see his face in the hallway at school on Monday. What if he tells everybody what we did? All of these things constantly going through my head. But the night before, my friends would always say, oh, it's all fun and games. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But the next day, the fun and games were over. And I remember lying there one morning thinking to myself, what's not the big deal here? My body, my self-respect, my dignity? What's not the big deal? But I knew deep down it was. I knew deep down I was miserable, I wasn't happy, and I was just downright disgusted with myself and my life, but I just didn't know what to do. I thought, what's done is done. Now, after a while of living this lifestyle, my mother had an idea of what was going on in my life. Most parents have an idea what's going on in your lives. As much as I thought I was fooling my mother, I was really fooling myself. And she came up to me and she said, Crystalina, there's a purity talk, and you're going to it. And I laughed in her face and said, I'm not going to some talk, thanks, but no thanks. She says, you're going if you like it or not. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't want to lose my car. I'll sit in the very back of the room for 15 minutes, and I'm out of there. I don't have time for this. I have a party to go to. I have friends to see. I don't have time. And in that 15 minutes that I thought I was going to sit there, my life was changed. There was a guy who was very honest, blunt, and real. He talked about all of the girls, all of the sex, all the pornography, everything that he had been into. He just laid it out. And I felt like this guy, he had grabbed my hand out of the audience and he walked through my life. Like he could see the things I was most ashamed of and hiding. And I thought, what's the difference? He's done the same exact things I've done. And I just watched him. And he had this peace and this joy and this confidence that he carried about himself that I didn't see that in my friends. I didn't see that in the places I went to, and I definitely didn't see that in the guys I was dating. But he had one quality above all of them that I wanted more than anything, and it's that he wasn't ashamed of himself. I sat in my seat trying to figure out one day, just one, a single day of just true peace and joy, not worried what I had done prior that night, prior that weekend, prior that month, always worried, but never any peace. And I realized in that moment, I needed to get my standards out of the gutter and raise them as high as I possibly could and start respecting my body for once. And that night, I went home and I wrote down every single thing that I had done. Wow, which was a lot, and it was really overwhelming. But then I wrote down everything this guy had said to me, and I put it in an envelope, and I hid it in my bedroom because I knew that weekend that temptation was going to be there. And sure enough, that weekend, there were those guys, there were my friends, there were those parties, and I ran to that letter. And it was a very harsh reminder what was there waiting for me. And I didn't do it again. Instead, I wrote another letter, and every single time I was tempted to go back to that old lifestyle, I'd read my old letters and I would write a new one. So now I had this huge stack of letters of all of the no's that I said in my life. Now, Jason here waited 27 years for his future bride. I can't stand up here and say, on those Friday nights, on those weekends I was out partying with my friends, that I held myself back for love of him, because I didn't, and that's a lie. And I can stand up here and I can look in your eyes and your eyes and all of your eyes, but every day I look into those eyes and it tears me up that I allowed someone to rob him of the gift that God meant solely for this man and no other. Now, even though I didn't have my virginity to give him, I did give him this huge stack of letters of all of the no's that I said for him, showing him I did start respecting my body. I did start loving him through my actions and waiting for him. Now, when I turned my life around, a lot of my friends thought it was some big joke, right? They were constantly making fun of me. What, are you a prude now? What, are you too good for us? What's your problem? And finally, I got sick of it, and I went home and I told someone what was going on. And the best advice they could give me was, oh, don't worry about it. Just ignore them. You're doing the right thing. Well, I tell you today, if anyone makes fun of you for living out a lifestyle of chastity, of purity, of respecting your body, and you get made fun of for that, you go home, you make a book of it, you write it all down. You remember it. Because when you stand in front of your bride or in front of your husband on your wedding day, you tell me, where is the laughter? Where is the mockery? Who will be making fun of you then? Nobody. There will be complete silence in that place on that day, and any of those people would pay $1 million to be in your shoes. And when you stand up there, you will say, I will honor you, and I will cherish you all the days of my life. Well, today's the day of my life, and today's the day of your life. So keep that in mind and take it to heart, because your life is going to be so much more than these 4 walls in this high school, and it goes way and far beyond this. For those of you in the audience that are virgins, I have the utmost respect for you. And don't ever be ashamed of it, but be proud of it, because I know plenty of people who would love to trade places with you, and I was one of them. And granted, I know you're not perfect, but hold on to that. Don't be ashamed of what you have. For those of you in the audience that aren't virgins, that have made past mistakes, I don't care who you are, where you've been, what you've done, or what has happened in your past, because frankly, it is never too late. After one of our talks, a girl comes up to me, and it turns out she had slept with 15 guys in the past 3 months. Now, you know the names her school had for her. That girl, she is a slut, and that's all she's ever going to be. And I asked her, I said, why are you doing this to yourself? She said, oh, it's fun. You go to parties, you hook up. It's fun. And I said, is it really fun? And for once, Someone took this poor girl seriously, and she just looked at me with her eyes full of tears, and she says, it's not fun. She says, my parents are going through a divorce right now. The minute I walk into my home, there's nothing but hurt and hate, and just for the moment that those guys hold me, it feels like love. Even though I know it's not, at least I feel like somebody wants me. That girl's not a slut. She has a heart identical to yours and to mine. And ultimately, all that we want is love. So if it's too late for her to start over, well, then it was too late for me to start over. And frankly, it's not too late for anyone to start over.